When graphing the results for the Wingate data, be aware it's going to be slightly more cumbersome in terms of the number of steps than for the RAST and 60 jump test. The reason for that is by the way we've designed our table here. Peak power is going to be pretty easy to graph, and then relative peak power is when we're going to have to incorporate those extra steps. For peak power, we will select the entire row of data plus the subject information or the subject numbers. Insert, for this we are using a bar graph. Here we go. We can make this a little bit smaller just for our ease of the visual as we continue on with these different graphs. We are going to add the chart element because naturally we need axis titles. We are looking for our primary vertical. We don't care about the primary horizontal because we have the subject number identified already. Axis title, we're going to include our unit, which per over here is watts. So it's basically just our key. And we have graphed peak power. For relative peak power, we're going to begin to see a little bit more cumbersome value or steps. For graphing relative peak power, we will begin to have to do a few more steps in order to have a nice neat graph like for peak power. We're going to go insert, bar graph once more, nice and simple here. But we want to make sure that we get the subject number, so we can right click on the graph. We're going to select data, and under the horizontal category axis labels here, we're going to select edit, and we can actually highlight the values that we want. So we can have subject, and now we see subject is automatically added in here and it's nicely formatted. Once more, we need to make sure we have axis titles. So we are going for primary vertical. Our unit, because this is relative, that means we are incorporating body mass into the equation. This will be watts per kilogram. And there we have our graph. So those same steps will be repeated throughout, and I will carry on graphing all 4 of these just to ensure that any additional exposure that is requested is available. So once more, we will highlight the entire row of data, insert our bar graph. We will select data, horizontal axis labels, edit. We're going to select our axis label range, which is subject and the subject numbers. We automatically have that input. We can select OK. We are going to add our units, so primary vertical axis title, individual average power output, so we are back to watts, no longer relative because we're not incorporating body mass into this equation or into this visual. I'll go ahead and shorten these guys up so it's easier to see all 4. And you notice that when I select the graph itself, it identifies what data in the table has been applied in that visual. So finally, for fatigue index, which is basically percent of power drop, we will insert the bar graph, right click, select data, edit, select subject 1, 2, and 3, OK. Add our axis title, and because this is a percent power drop, we are going with percent for our unit. And there we have the 4 graphs for the lab report 2 of anaerobic labs 1 and 2. This is the Wingate data that is expected in the lab report 2.